we come out of that stretch 2-2 as we expected to be 2-2, and we got the whole season in front of us, and we've got a pretty team friendly next few games. We can really start chopping some wood and seeing this team kind of fall into its own and create a groove. And next time we see Pop, what's going on, man?
Wait, I'm just messing with you. I'm doing good, son.
Every time, little inside ball there. Every time I press record, I say to Pop, Pop, are you ready? And he
You
goes,
sure
yeah.
you're
All
ready?
right,
You sure you're
let's
ready?
do it. And then I press record, and it's about 30 seconds of crap I got to trim out of popcorn. Taking sips of
Whatever.
water, doing the Ron Burgundy, how now, brown cow, getting warmed up.
That's it.
Get right
Gotta
to
warm
it,
those golden pipes up, you know.
man. Get right
I
to
didn't
it.
get this
Pop.
voice by accident.
Hey, man. It's all good. It's all good. Pop, where's your you guys know if you've been watching the Monday podcast now for a while, or the Wednesday podcast, excuse me. Pop,
You mean the
where's your
Thursday
vibes
morning
at?
podcast?
That too. That too. We record them. We record them on different days of the week. We release them on different days of the week. This one's coming out Wednesday morning because of the Thursday night
That's
football
true.
game.
All
So
right,
my
yeah.
second guess was correct.
There you go.
But
Day early
Pop,
for the people.
we're gonna hit the vibe check right off the bat. Where are your vibes at with the Commanders? Just general vibe check. We get into a couple more specific questions, but how are you feeling right now?
I think the best way I can describe it is I think it's all out in front of us, right? After that performance on Sunday, and taking the best team in the NFC East, and they still hold the crown until somebody takes it from them. Not the NFC East, the NFC. Sorry. In
Both.
overtime, took a 54-yard kick to beat us in overtime. Questionable call on Terry. I won't get into that again. I think that it's all in front of us. That's my vibes. I think it's all out in front of us to still have the type of season that we thought was a possibility for the ceiling for this team. So that's where my vibes are at. Still
I like
nervous.
it. I like it. I think that's a very balanced, level-headed approach to have after the weekend, and I think that's the only logical takeaway you can really have from it. I know I was a little ho-hum in the last pod. I was a little down. I was upset.
Mm,
You guys can see I wear my passion for the team on my sleeve. I was hurt,
sad
and I'm
Donnie.
still I'm still a little sad about it. I really just every time I think about it, I'm like, oh, it would have been so good for that to be a win. Whatever. We're on to Chicago back in Ashburn, and generally I'm with you. I think we come out of that stretch 2-2 as we expected to be 2-2, and we got the whole season in front of us, and we've got a pretty team friendly next few games. We can really start chopping some wood and seeing this team kind of fall into its own and create a groove. And next time we see Philly, it's at home. So who knows?
That's
Maybe we
right.
get a few more bounces, and maybe maybe the forearm counts as inbounds next time. I don't know. I don't know how that ruling works, but so real quick, I mean, couple little questions in regards to our vibe check here. Do we think it's been a few days now? This is the hot topic of conversation. Just touch on it fast. Ron going for two. Has your opinion changed? Do you think you should have? Did Dave Portnoy change your mind? Where are you at?
I didn't even hear what Portnoy said, but I know that there were some people ranting and raving about it. I'm going with Peyton Manning. They played a clip from Peyton Manning on the
Stole my
Be
bet,
Mitch and
man. You
Finley
stole
show
my bet.
today. And oh, I took it from you. I'm sorry, son.
No, it's good. It's good. We're on the same page. We're dialed in today.
But
I
in the
like that. I
moment,
like that
in the
synchronicity.
in the moment, I was okay with it. I mean, the reality is that the chance to convert on a 2-point conversion in that situation, when you've been pulling off miracles the whole drive, that whole final drive, we were on the edge of disaster. If you think about it, that whole final drive, right? 3rd and 17, which I was right about, by the way. Third and
You
17,
were.
right? And then a 4th and 2, and then that last pass play, which if Samuel would have caught it, would have run the clock out, right? So like we were on the
Yep.
edge of disaster that whole ride. So I can understand in the moment, in the emotion of the situation. I was emotionally exhausted, and I was kind of relieved that they just kicked the extra point. That was my reaction in the moment.
Yeah,
So I know your Uncle Nick giving him a shout out said the whole drive he was yelling, "Go for two, go for two." In hindsight, of course, you could look at it and say going for two wouldn't have been a bad call. I can only say in the moment, which is kind of what Peyton said. I'll let you give more of the Peyton Manning take there. In the moment, I was okay with it. So I'm just going to say I'm okay with it. You know,
yeah,
there is logic to it. And I'll just say this, the one argument I heard against, which was pretty strong, was you're taking the odds of like going for two versus winning a coin toss. And even if you win the coin toss, you got to drive, 75 yards down the field and, you know, potentially get a
score a
touchdown, right?
touchdown.
So
Yeah,
um, maybe a field goal, if we get a field goal, the game stays tied. But I get that under logic. In the moment, I was cool with it. So I'm just going to have to say I'm still cool with it.
yeah. I'm with you. I was cool with it in the moment. I wasn't even thinking about going for two. Frankly, I was that whole drive. I was kind of just upset. I was like, there's just not enough time on the clock. It's all for nothing. They scored. I was like, all right, just kick the extra point. I couldn't once they scored, I couldn't believe that we're actually in this thing. And I was like, all right, kick the extra point, get to
Same.
overtime. This has been such a herky jerk game. We haven't really got a lot of bounces. Things haven't gone our way, and there have been some things that have gone our way. Let's just get into overtime and see what our chances are. What Peyton Manning discussed was kind of talking about, hey, like Ron knows his guys, Bieniemy knows his guys. When I was playing, that was a conversation you had before the drive started, so maybe that was kind of the case, and maybe that was something they'd already decided on. Maybe they used a play that they wanted to use for the 2 point conversion. Maybe they used that to get the touchdown. All these kind of different aspects going into it. He highlighted it really well, and he just said he's going to go with Rivera and him making the decision that he know what was best for his team because it's his job to know his guys. And I think if there's one thing we can consistently say Rivera has done, it's been able to get the pulse of the team and the locker room and understand the guys. That's the one thing he's kind of consistently been the best at, has been the kind of personal side with the players. So I'm going to stand by him as well. I think we move on there.
Maybe we're a little guilty. One thought that creeped in my mind real quick here is that maybe we are a little guilty as fans, and I know the fan base is split on this, of wanting that moral victory. And maybe Ron fell into that trap too, right? Of like if we tie them and take them to overtime, and our quarterback has led us into that moment, and we don't get a disappointing 2 point conversion miss, maybe subconsciously in there's that, because I admitted to it. Like, and this is probably not great as a fan, but all I wanted was Sam to play well. Like that was
Yeah,
really what I wanted more than anything. And it was sort of like, don't throw a pick here, where maybe like taking that chance in the end zone, and if it turns into a pick, would have been okay. But I just didn't want him to do anything where anyone would point to Sam and say he's the reason we lost. And maybe that's not the greatest approach, going forward. And we proved we can go toe to toe with the Eagles like that. I thought Kevin Sheehan said a great thing that I just want to add this point because it was so good. The Eagles played a great game. The
they
thing to
did.
be encouraged about this performance and why the vibes should be pretty good is it's not like we caught them on a bad day and went toe to toe with them and and lost. They played one of their best game of the season against us. That
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
great point by Kevin.
Yep. I agree on that. They did play well. I don't know about best game of the season just because I didn't closely watch every game that
According
Phillies
to
played this
according to
year,
Kevin, who I
but
respect a
I'll,
lot,
I'll
yeah.
take it. Hey, it's good for
They
us. I'll
played a
take
hell
it.
of a game, right? I mean, we agree on
Definitely.
that.
Definitely. All right, so we spent almost 10 minutes now talking about the Eagles. We made ourselves a promise. We're not going to talk about last week's game in the pregame pods. Here we are. So guys, if you want to hear the Eagles talk, check back on that last episode. That is we spent about 40 minutes talking about the game and went through every emotion. Spoiler alert, my emotion was sad that entire episode. But if you want to go back, check back here our in-depth Eagles breakdown. Going forward here, I mentioned earlier we got an opportunity to chop some wood. We've got the next 5 games. We've got the Bears at home, Falcons, Giants on the road, Eagles at home, Patriots on the road. You hope we should be favorites in 4 of those games the way things are trending. Um, and the Eagles, even you get a couple different bounces, you're looking at a different ball game. You hope you can split that series. So an opportunity to make some things happen coming down the stretch here, but you got to start with the Bears. We're at
Yeah,
home
you don't
Thursday
want to
night
look
football.
ahead just to spend a
Yeah,
minute on that stretch, right? You don't want to look ahead, but you got to figure minimum they got to win 3 of those
I
5
was gonna
games.
say you gotta hope to go at least 3-2 over that stretch. I would like to see them win 4,
I
but
agree. I mean, that could
we'll
that could
see.
that could really be a pivotal stretch set up for the rest of the season.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But we got the Bears at home. Got to focus. Got to, as Ron would say, got to be where our feet are for the most
That's
part.
right. Can't take
Focus
this
up
one for
here.
granted, that's for sure.
Focus up here. The Bears,
Thursday night football.
about as weak of an opponent as you can have in the NFL. I mean, the football experts were saying that Justin Fields was going to be the MVP season this year. He's going to break out like Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts did. Hasn't happened yet. He had a good game last week against Denver, who is terrible. So
Brutal
I'm kind
fumble
of
though.
taking that with a grain of salt. Yeah, brutal fumble at the end there. But overall, not too worried about the Bears in terms of like, I'm worried about the fact that I'm not too worried about the Bears and the fact that we had a really pivotal overtime game and it's a short week. We'll get into that in the 3 keys. But in general, to do a little bit of Dommy scouting report here, not much to scout from the Bears. I mean, DJ Moore, former Terp, great football player, but Justin Fields not really getting the ball to him all that much. Justin Fields can definitely use his legs. He's a phenomenal runner. Not great as a passer. You got to look to take the ball away from him a couple times this game. You hope. And their defense is nothing to write home about. I mean, all in all, unfortunately, the Bears are just not a good football team. So
I think
this
they
has
had
got to
they
be
had
one
decent
that
success
we
running the
take care of.
football last week, I guess, but nothing we shouldn't
Yeah.
be able to handle. Yeah.
No, no, this is one that we got to take care of. And this, for me, I know we don't do a vibe check, but vibe wise, headed into this feels a lot like the Houston Texans game last year. We had Philly on Monday night, and then we had Houston on a short week at Houston, and we beat Philly, and we were all saying hangover game, hangover game, hangover game. Second play of the game, Kendall Fuller pick six, takes it to the house. It was over from there on out. We just spanked Houston.
Let's hope
So
so.
we've seen the Commanders be able to do this, and now we have that extra little chip on their shoulder, and that it really hurt that we lost that game against Philly. So let's hope Ron and the guys, Thursday night, little sloppy. It's always not great football because the guys just aren't fully recovered yet. We'll see. Hoping, fingers crossed, we can get this thing together and the guys can win. How are you feeling, Pop?
It's an interesting spot, right? Because there was talk of, I actually thought the Bears beat the Broncos. I didn't check the game, check the score of the game. We were talking a little football at the house Sunday night, and someone said no, the Broncos came back, and I'm like, what? Because I just sort of wrote off that the Broncos would even be able to do that,
Well, they
and
were
they still
down like 27-7 at one
incredible.
point.
And they talked about Justin Fields just being completely deflated. So I think, you're talking about two teams coming off two very emotional games and how they
Yeah.
bounce back from that. I get good vibes, I think, from our boys, and I feel like, um, if anything, they I don't want to say they feel good, but they feel like they should have won that game. There's a lot to feel good coming out of that game. And I think they're going to come in energized. Third straight sellout. So I think that home field advantage is going to be real. Like you were saying via text before this, can't imagine there's a ton of Bears fans in the stands.
Yeah.
The Bears probably
Can't
travel
really
pretty
travel.
good, but, and then
Not these days.
that soul crushing defeat for the Bears. How do they come off of that? Do they come out angry? The thing that you got to do is, you can't give them hope.
Yeah.
You've got to establish yourself as the better team from the jump. That's
Yep.
really crucial for this game. It's not one of my keys. Maybe it's one of yours, but But you just gotta, establish yourself as the better team. Be on that front foot from the beginning because you give him a little hope, and Fields is very talented. You let him start running around the field, you never know. And you start to tighten up as a team, feeling this is one we gotta have. So it wouldn't shock me. I think we get the W no matter what, but it wouldn't shock me if it's more like a Cardinals game week one, where it's closer than it should be. And, we end up having to sort of make a bit of a comeback or, win a close one when we shouldn't have had to win a close one.
Yeah,
I hope not.
I think it's astute of you, Pop. I think we go ahead and get into those three keys. I think it's time.
Yeah.
Time to give the people what they're waiting for here. So the three keys for the Dom and Pop road to victory here this week. For me, it's going to begin and end with we got to control the football, control the turnovers. I know it's kind of a layup, but Thursday night, it's always sloppy. It's always gross. It's always like you get like I think we won what like 12-7 last year. Like you just get these odd scores and these uncomfortable. Thursday night football always kind of sucks to watch as a spectator because teams are turning the ball over a lot. It's real sloppy.
Yeah.
So we got to
Quick
focus on just
turnaround.
keep it simple, protect the football, don't um, just don't beat ourselves. I think that's number one, and especially when you're playing against a team like Chicago that I don't think they're coached up the same way that Arizona was coached up, but a similar situation where kind of they've got nothing to lose, nobody's expecting anything out of them. When you're in that situation, I definitely think you gotta just keep it simple at the beginning and focus number one on protecting the ball, not turning the ball over, not making stupid mistakes. Number two is going to be I want to score early and I want to get ahead early because I want to take that run game out of it. I want to put them in a position where they've got to throw the ball. And how you do that is you score early, you keep the ball in your hands, you win time of possession. So come out the gate like we did against Philly last week. Come out the gate, score. At one point, we were up 17-7 on the Philadelphia Eagles last week. I'm going to go out on a limb and say if we're up 17-7 against the Chicago Bears, I'm willing to almost guarantee a victory at that point. When we're up 17-7 against Philly, you go, they're a really good team. They can come back from this. I don't think Chicago makes its way back from that. I think they can blow a 17-7 lead better than they can come back from 17-7 for sure. So get out the gate early, score. And number three is going to be we got to contain Justin Fields' legs. If we take his legs away from him, we can't do anything. That's just the bottom line. He's not shown consistently that he can beat you from the pocket. He's not shown consistently that he can even beat you off schedule. The only thing he's shown consistently is that he can run, and he can run very well. He runs better than most running backs in the league. He's
Right.
a great runner. So we got to contain that. We got to keep him away. I think a good defensive game plan, I would look to what Buffalo did against us in week 3, play a lot of zone, sit on everything, and just be ready to jump because Fields doesn't see the field. And if we can keep zone, you see these quarterbacks, they get out a lot in man coverage because they look up, they identify it's man, and they see they have the space and they go. I would play a lot of zone. I mean, obviously you can't play zone all game, but I would play a lot of zone against these guys. I would really just keep them in front of us, keep Fields in front of us. If Fields wants to beat, if we lose from Fields dinking and dunking us up the field like 2020 Tom Brady, then I mean, fine. What are you gonna do? Like you can't
Right.
you can't be mad at that. But I think you gotta keep him in front of you, contain. It's easier said than done, and that's gonna be on our defensive line really playing with a lot of discipline and our defensive coordinator using some quarterback spies and being smart. So you gotta hope. I mean, these people are getting paid a lot more money than we are, right? They're a lot smarter, allegedly, about this kind of stuff. So you gotta hope that they're keyed in on that as well. But yeah, those are my three keys. It's going to be we gotta stop the turnovers, gotta score early, and we gotta contain Justin Fields on the run. I know they're a little obvious here, but not much to dissect in this matchup from the Bears if we're just being honest. So it's going to be a little surface level.
My turn.
What you got, Pop? Yeah, I mean I'm not just sitting here staring off into space. Please
I'm just waiting for
give me
you to
the
be
keys.
done, son. I'm waiting. I'm gonna try to give you that room. Excellent
Appreciate
analysis
that.
as always. In terms of even calling defensive plays, that's impressive. This is going to be a theme for me till I see a performance that I believe is up to standard, and that's our defense has to step up, pure and
Yep.
simple. Our defense should dominate the Bears in this game, pure and simple. Anything short of that is a disappointing performance, in my opinion. And I'm going to say number two, more of the same on offense that we saw against the Eagles. Work that quick game, move the change, get the ball out of Sam's hand quick. Don't get lulled into a false sense of security that you're playing the Bears and you can revert back to the offense we had against the Bills, a lot of drop back game. No, call that same offensive game plan. Obviously, you got to mix it up a little bit to keep them off balance, but I'm just saying more of the same on offense. And you mentioned it, get out to that early lead. Better, we did have better run pass balance. And they didn't really go to the drop back game very much the entire game, and I personally like that as a recipe for success. You could take the occasional shot, but just I love that game plan we had for the Eagles. Let's keep it pretty similar. And then I'm going to just go revert to the other football and a term that's used there. Keep a clean sheet, and that goes to penalties, sacks. I don't want to see another 5-sack game. We're done with that. You know, can we? The offensive line should go into this game thinking we keep Sam clean. This is our opportunity to do that. Maybe 1, 2 sacks max, and then of course turnovers. Right? We need Sam to protect the ball and make sure that we got a clean sheet from the offense with regards to turnovers, minimal penalties, and minimal sacks. So
Yep.
those would be my 3 keys to the game.
I love that, Pop. A lot
Boom.
of very sharp, very sharp. I love that analysis. I think something to think about here. You said the defensive performance, and it's something that I've been thinking about. If you look back to last year and you look back to years prior, it usually takes Del Rio's defense a few weeks to get things going. And frankly, I think that's ridiculous, but it's just the reality of things. It's a few weeks, and then we run in to a bad quarterback, and then all of a sudden the world opens up and the defense starts playing really well, right? And we saw that last year. Jacksonville, Detroit, Philly, Dallas, Tennessee were all not so great defensive performances, and then you saw them kind of come alive against Chicago. And I think we have an opportunity to do the same thing here 1 week earlier in the year and with a better record, 2-2. So you hope we come alive against Chicago. And then looking down that stretch, I mean, if our defense is balling, they've got the opportunity to really get comfortable. So I think it's
Yeah.
easy to say, oh, snoozer of a game, Thursday night, Chicago, blah, blah, blah. But in general, I think we got to stay awake here because this is an opportunity to really set the tone for how this is going to go for the rest of the season and to really start establishing who we're going to be and start to establish an identity for ourselves.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a must win. I'll
Yep.
say it.
I would call it a must win as well. That was maybe
Yeah.
a question we should have stuck at the beginning, but
It's
yeah,
all
I
right. We
think it's
got it in there.
definitely we got it in there. I'm glad you slipped it in. That's good. I'm 100% with you. It's a must win game here. I think you just can't, after a close game like that against Philly, you can't lose this one and then
No.
expect to be positive vibes from the Down and Pop podcast come
No, we
Monday.
lose this one. There ain't
Um,
no such things as positive vibes.
yeah. So 30 seconds of housekeeping, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. So, this, you guys are hearing from us on Wednesday. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, it's time for them to get into the bottom bets. That's coming to you on Friday morning. This is a special Thursday night. We're going to do a little bit of split up. We're going to wrap this thing up just by predicting the game really quick. And then we're going to do all our bottom bets next week.
Separate pod. Not next week.
Not
Friday
next
morning.
week. On Friday, excuse me. Friday morning.
Next week would be
Coming
too
right
late
at
to
you.
pick the games from this past weekend.
Theoretically,
I know I'm putting a little pressure on you, son. I'll apologize.
So,
You're cracking a little bit.
Commanders minus 5.5. What do you got?
I think for me, what's making me confident about this game, why I'm going to pick our boys, why I'm going to pick the Commanders into points. I just think that there's a building confidence with EB and with Sam, and I think that offense is going to continue to roll. I don't think they're satisfied. I don't think there's a risk of a letdown. I think the defense is upset, wants to kind of prove themselves. So I think there's a hunger to this team. Sold out crowd, Thursday night football. There's going to be a buzz with the Josh Harris new ownership. First time they get that national stage. And I think they've got enough runway now. This is week 5. I mean, it's incredible that it's already week 5. But I
Yeah, it's
just think they're
crazy.
going to keep it rolling. I'm building more confidence in Sam, and I think they're gonna take care of business and cover that 5.5 points. I really do.
I like it. I like the optimism. I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you on that. I don't have a particular lean. I think it's just hard to say that the Commanders win, but the Bears cover, even though we all know what that game will look like if that happens. We all know how that will go. We watched
It's
it
a
in Arizona.
possibility, and
We watched it for
historically,
about 7 of our 8 wins last year. It's probably what's going to happen. But I'm going to roll with you and take I'm going to say it's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new light. Eric Bieniemy is taking over, and I'm feeling good. Commanders -5.5. Lock it in. Don't blame me if it doesn't hit. We'll see you for Bada Bets next week. Without further ado, or I keep saying next week. We'll see you for Bada Bets on Friday. Without further ado, I've been Dom.
this is Pop.
Thanks for listening.